Chapter 6. Fending Off the Scatter Bomb. Stay focused amidst all the distractions. The next great obstacle in the battle for success probably afflicts every single distributor who ever enters our industry. We call it the scatter bomb. It is quite easy to fall into this booby trap because of the very changeable nature of our business. Simply put, the scatter bomb is a mental explosion that diffuses the focus of distributors, causing them to stop using the system they have been taught and to frantically follow any and every new network marketing system that comes along. The scatter bomb occurs frequently in the first year, sending new distributors in search of any new leader, company, sales aid, or system that might enable them to succeed more rapidly or more easily. This divisive weapon is quite deceptive because it comes disguised as the ultimate new tool or as the perfect strategy for success. Sometimes it's a new manual or video, which many new distributors assume will be more effective than the work program currently used, merely because it's new. Other times it's a new leader who comes to town with a brand new way to do the business, and since he's making more money than you, his system must be better than yours. When your spirits are really down, it can even be a new company with a better compensation plan. Whether the scatter bomb takes the form of a person, system, or company, the very worst thing you can do in your first year is yield to the temptation to change direction every time a new system comes along. This business is a process of system duplication, and therefore each time you change your system, everyone in your downline gets confused. In network marketing, the worst battles in the entire first year will be the internal ones you fight each time you're tempted to find a faster, better, easier route. Remember, if someone in your upline is earning the amount of money you strongly desire, and you continue to duplicate the exact system that got him or her to wealth, you too will eventually get there, but not if you are always changing the system. There are many different ways to do the network distribution business, and fortunately each of them is equally lucrative. There's no one way to success. But if a network marketer becomes so scattered that he or she is constantly changing from system to system, thereby compelling downline associates to change, failure will certainly follow. In this chapter, we will prepare you to fend off the inevitable scatter bomb by bringing to your attention the detours you and your new distributors will be tempted to take. Always changing the system. We have personally lost great frontline distributors, many of whom could have become legends in this industry, because they just couldn't stop changing systems. In fact, in one case, we lost the leaders of an entire foreign market. Just imagine the possibilities if you started on the ground floor in a brand new country with 1,500 serious prospects who came to learn more about your business on opening day. The company you represented was a billion-dollar MLM company already successful in 20 other countries, and all the new distributors signing up were within your first 5 levels. Also, assume that your sponsors were extremely well known and had all the training manuals, audio tapes, videotapes, books, translated into every language on your continent, and then set up a second home in your part of the world in order to spend significant time supporting you. Under these circumstances, failure seems impossible. Believe it or not, failure was the end result. The key leaders quit the business within 18 months. They failed because they changed their name from the Yarnell organization to another unknown group, gradually eliminated every system we taught them, and consumed much of their time routinely changing their training materials. It was the ultimate scatter bomb. Every one of our systems had proven success, and every one of theirs rapidly failed. But they still maintained that their organization collapsed because they just didn't have a good enough compensation plan. And we provided them with many other forms of support, financial and otherwise, that we haven't even mentioned. The truth is that they and all their downline were victims of the scatter bomb. But frankly, as their sponsors, we have to accept a great deal of the responsibility for their failure, because each time they made a system change, and it was very frequent, We protested only gently. Unlike the typical recriminations in traditional business after such a collapse, we are still friends with this group of distributors despite the failure. This experience was an important and painful lesson for us, so we want to pass it on to you so that you might avoid our mistake. And here's the primary lesson. New distributors must literally be indoctrinated into duplicating your system. They must be taught in the beginning to follow the system of their sponsor and not deviate from it. Today we tell our newest associates in no uncertain terms that the day they deviate from our system is the day they lose our support. It's a serious matter for us. What we've learned is that even if you hand-pick the best recruiters and most committed people in a newly opened foreign market, set them up with all the training tools they need, help close their best prospects, sign them up during an opening day launch attended by the company's highest dignitaries, even if you do all that, if those people are unwilling to duplicate one simple system that has proven itself elsewhere, they are destined for failure. That's the frightening reality about the scatterbomb. Business without blinders. The metaphor of scatterbomb also refers to the inability of new distributors to ignore all the inevitable distractions in the first year and maintain a clear vision of where they are going and how they are going to get there. New distributors become scattered very quickly by a veritable smorgasbord of companies, recruiting systems, videos, manuals, and numerous other sales systems available to them. New distributors must be warned to put on blinders during their first year. Consistent duplication of one simple success system is essential in order to avoid confusion in one's entire downline, which is precisely what occurs each time a leader changes systems midstream. Even worse, some overzealous entrepreneurs jump right into recruiting without any goals or systems around which to base their business plan. Many new network marketers are like the man searching for his keys one night. A neighbor sees the man spending hours laboriously searching for something in the grass. Finally, she goes to ask if she can help. "What are you looking for?" she asks. "I lost my keys," he replies. As she begins to crawl on the ground with him, she inquires, "You lost them in this yard?" "No," he responds, "but the light is better here." There are countless distributors who want to work the business in ways that are more comfortable to them, more fitting to their self-image, more in keeping with their old work habits. The light may be better there, but if your goal is to achieve financial security and personal freedom, you may have to get out of your comfort zone and work where the light is not so good, or the ambiance is not so elegant. The good life will come soon enough, if you pay the price in the first year. Having faced many challenges in her life, Pia Dietzen of El Dorado, Arkansas, learned this lesson repeatedly before entering the world of network marketing. She left Denmark to come to America and got her real estate license within 5 months of her arrival. Shortly thereafter, she became a full-time student while holding down a full-time job, all during a pregnancy. She went back to work within weeks after delivering her baby through C-section. Throughout all of this, she managed to get her black belt. "What keeps me going on these ugly days when nothing seems to go right?" she asks. "I believe that inside all of us there is a driving force that will help us just as long as we stay focused on our goals. I teach my distributors not to give up, no matter what. I tell each distributor, the longer you stay and continue talking to people, the closer you will get to your goal. Never lose sight of that light at the end of the tunnel." Doctors Joe Rubino and Tom Ventullo of Andover, Massachusetts, had practiced dentistry for 10 years before being introduced to network marketing. Although they had built a very successful dental practice, they had lost all their enthusiasm for dentistry. The fire was gone, but dentistry was all they knew. The concept of network marketing was initially appealing to them, but both were shy and introverted. To build a successful business, they would be required to break out of their comfort zones and learn how to speak with others. Of course, all of the usual concerns came up for them. What would people think? How would they look to their peers? Because of their self-imposed limitations, they felt trapped and without a sense of direction. What could possibly turn two introverts into top network distributors in a business usually excelled at by extroverts? They had been playing small all their lives. Their focus was on playing it safe and avoiding risks. While this philosophy sheltered them from the dangers of the world, it also carried with it a tremendous price. Playing not to lose instead of to win was draining the partners from the inside. The adversity they had to overcome, like so many others living in quiet resignation, was to conquer a fear of the world that was slowly and steadily killing their spirits. As Norman Cousins wrote, "The true tragedy in life is not death, but that which dies inside us while we are still living." Once Joe and Tom woke up to the reality of their resignation and what it was costing them in terms of health, happiness, relationships, and their potential contributions to the world, they made a conscious decision to play full out. They needed to find a compelling reason to do what was uncomfortable, as well as nurture a self-confidence in who they were and what they had to offer. Part of their vision was, and still is, to expose millions of people living in resignation to the limitless possibilities for change in their lives once they simply choose to become open to them. With the support of their network marketing team and after working with some personal coaches, they decided to implement an action plan and to expect success. Nothing changed externally. The entire shift was in their mindsets. After just 6 years of effort in network marketing, Doctors Joe and Tom fully retired from dentistry with an income far greater than that from their dental practice. They speak and write internationally on how to succeed in network marketing. In December of 1995, Joe was featured on the cover of Success magazine, which called him a millionaire creator in the cover story entitled How Network Marketing's Entrepreneurial Elite Are Building Fortunes at Breakneck Speed. His book, Secrets of Building a $1 Million Network Marketing Organization, has been highly acclaimed for its comprehensive approach to becoming financially successful by developing a life purpose. They are living testaments to the fact that all of us can harness the life-changing power of this industry to make a difference in our own lives, while also contributing to the lives of countless others. Karen Johnson, formerly a Pink Cadillac winner with Mary Kay, and one of the strongest female speakers in the business, joined a new network marketing company in partnership with her husband, Bill Curtin. She looked up line to her role models, Charlie Miller, Jay Prim, and Mark Barrett, all of whom had achieved the top level of their company in record time. She believed that if they could do it, so could she. So she quit her job, Bill sold their business, and they joined up. They achieved the level of executive in the minimum time in January of 1991, the same month the Persian Gulf War erupted. Unfortunately, their 4 qualifying executives watched the news instead of working the business, and within 60 days, all 4 had lost their vision and quit. As Karen explains, 7 months later, Bill and I climbed our way back to having 4 new qualifying executives, only to have Barbara Walters appear on Nightline featuring our company with the infamous question, "Is it a dream or a scheme?" This television broadcast launched the most intense media and regulatory scrutiny ever encountered by any network marketing company. Over the next 10 months, as our company was ruthlessly attacked by the media, all 4 of our qualifying executives lost hope. Even though our company was exonerated after the investigation, we lost 3 more qualifying executives. Defending our company in the media and to the regulators exacted a heavy toll. After all that work, we had lost a total of 11 executives. Our families were begging us to go back to corporate America. We just couldn't. We had a dream. In June of 1992, we were thrown another curve. Our company diversified, and suddenly we had to go from our comfort zone of being knowledgeable about cosmetics and personal care products to learning about antioxidants, chelated minerals, and metabolic conditioning. But we did it, and by August of 1993, our first full-fledged executive emerged in our organization. It took 3 more years of hard work, but finally, in September of 1996, we reached the top level of our company. Karen remembers back to her days with Mary Kay, where she was often told, "The greater the individual's potential for success, the greater the adversity that individual will have to face. Gold is tempered through fire. How can we aspire to the greatness of leadership if our commitment is never challenged?" Karen and Bill, who successfully met the challenge, now live in Redondo Beach, California, freed from the shackles of corporate America and of owning a traditional business. When asked why she was able to hang in when everyone around her fell out, Karen said that it is essential to have your destination clearly in sight, even before the journey ever begins. It is clear that success for Doctors Joe and Tom, Pia, or Karen and Bill was tied directly to their undaunted sense of purpose. Each was successful at building their networking business because of an ability to shut out every distraction around them, whether internal or external, and stay the course with clear vision of where they were going and how they were going to get there. Achieving your goal is a process of getting accustomed to a new and better reality, one in which you can actually see yourself. Keep focused on the end result while 1. Preserving your belief that it is possible, 2. Blocking negative influences, and 3. Not worrying about how it will come to pass. Changing the system midstream. More than likely, one of the first manifestations of the scatter bomb will be the temptation to change, even just slightly, the system of recruiting you were taught. For example, your sponsor might tell you the critical importance of approaching your warm list by expressing your desire to have a business relationship with each of them and sharing your excitement about the potential of big money and free time because of the universal appeal of both. And while you are nodding your head in agreement, what you are really thinking is, "I can't approach my friends and family with an idea as outrageous as earning such extraordinary income." So you begin changing the approach. You avoid your best prospects, or mention a smaller income figure, or none at all in favor of promoting your products. Never mind that your sponsor insisted that you need to use the big money, free time approach. You know in your heart that your friends and family members simply cannot relate to that kind of money. You don't argue with your sponsor because you've already promised to use his system, but you think you know what's best. And guess what? If you think that way, so will all your recruits. We don't know what there is about our industry that makes it seem so easy, but all who sign up immediately begin to believe that they know more than their sponsor, or, for that matter, more than anyone who's ever been in this industry. The greater their innate leadership skills, the more likely they will want to reinvent the wheel. The way to prevent new distributors from changing the approach is to anticipate their notions during training. New distributors may not understand the importance of starting their business with relationship marketing or quoting large income figures in order to create a conscious shock. So teach them how easy it is to get sidetracked. Tell them right up front, "Now, you're going to be tempted to postpone reaching out to your most viable contacts or change the numbers because you're concerned about discussing so much money with your friends. Do it anyway. It is important that you use the exact approach we teach you." Make sure new distributors understand that network marketing begins with relationships and requires numerous contacts and tenacious follow-through. Another part of the approach they will feel compelled to change is to lower any numbers you give them in training. If you suggest they need to personally sponsor at least 100 people over time, they often decide that 50 frontline recruits are enough. If you advise that full-time distributors may need to approach at least 100 prospects a week once they move into cold marketing, they often decide that 30 or 40 is plenty. If you suggest targeting 2,000 people on their warm list, They will, usually without telling you so, think you are out of your mind. Such changes to your system, which new distributors are convinced will not block their success, is the first element of the scatterbomb. Remember, each time you teach a module of your system to new recruits, make absolutely certain that you stress to them that any deviation from your system could result in failure. The mere act of warning your recruits about first-year challenges during a fun, relaxed training session will help you later when you need to constructively criticize them after they become rebellious or unfocused. Of course, if you don't want to waste time talking about all these things, and you have no system created by an upline associate who is earning big money, just hand this book to all new distributors when they sign up. How's that for a shameless endorsement? But remember, the best advice will come from upline leaders, because they have already proven themselves in your specific company. The lure of other deals. Some changes will come from outside your sphere of influence and seem beyond your control. We want you to be prepared for any and all diversions and challenges that threaten your downline. The amazing truth about MLM is that once you have established yourself with a company, you can literally waltz through decades without anyone trying to lure you away. Yet in the first year you become a distributor, the competition will come out of the woodwork and beg you to switch companies. Success and perseverance will earn you respect, whereas your newness makes you vulnerable. Mark tells the story of his very first exposure to a successful upline distributor. There I was, excited about finally putting a face with the name of a guy I already respected by virtue of his income and lifestyle. He was living in another city, so when he called to see if he could help me in any way, I asked if he would consider driving the 150 miles to my city sometime to visit with my top distributors and coach them about the business. I was astounded by the speed with which he accepted my invitation. He told me to get everybody ready for advanced training and that he'd be there in a week. I was elated. Back then our leaders were not yet caught up in the hotel presentation mania, so I didn't set up a citywide meeting. I simply invited 25 of my best distributors to my home for an advanced training session with our upline hero. Although my real mentor was Richard Call, this leader lived closer and was only 3 levels above me in the company. He was allegedly earning over $15,000 a month, so I figured my people would be in good hands. I remember it like yesterday. We had a real Texas cookout, great barbecued ribs and all the wonderful trimmings. While the others were eating, I was delighted that my great upline hero wanted me to take him to a quiet room in the house to discuss the meeting that was about to start. I took him upstairs to my office, and we sat down in a couple of chairs facing each other. Before I could say a word, my wayward upline said, "Mark, get ready to lose sleep tonight. I have found the ultimate payout and recruiting video in this company called USA Vitamins. If you think our company has a good comp plan, listen to this." I was shell-shocked. The first major scatterbomb of my first year in MLM had just exploded. And this one was sure to get everyone off course, because he was getting ready to address my top 25 distributors. I had to think fast because I didn't want to make a scene, and I only had half an hour to prepare a strategy. As he talked, I sat there racking my brain, trying to figure out what I could do. Finally, I thought of a comeback. "Look, Doug, you've hit me cold on this, and we cannot let my wife know that you've presented this to me without her, or she'll be extremely offended." Doug said, "I understand, my wife's the—" I stopped him with my last comment. "Look, just pretend you haven't said anything. I want my wife to see this great deal, and the last thing we want is for you to say anything to any of these distributors. My wife and I need to be on your team when you pitch them. You know what I mean?" Doug nodded in agreement and became extremely cordial. He was sure he was going to recruit us. He promised not to say one word until the 3 of us were alone later that evening. The meeting went smoothly, and nobody had any idea that our great mentor was already in another deal. Of course, once everyone was gone, I really let him have it with both barrels, specifically pointing out what a fool he was to jump ship in the first year. We parted as enemies because that's the way he wanted it. But he still calls from time to share his latest MLM venture and explain why I should join him. I think he's been in half a dozen companies since then. Imagine what he must be thinking when he realizes, had he stayed and continued to work, he would be earning in excess of $100,000 a month for the rest of his life off of our efforts alone. We have a saying that we share with every new distributor. The grass is always greener till it's time to mow. We can guarantee you, just as certain as the sun will rise in the east tomorrow, that your new recruits will be courted by other MLM companies in their first years as distributors. It's a certainty and must be addressed in the training process of all new distributors. A good thing for distributors to always keep in mind is that the trickle-down theory works better in our business than in economics. Teach your leaders anything, and if it works, everyone in your organization will learn it rapidly. Those of us who have been in this industry for many years have learned a very real success principle: perseverance. Distributors who have stayed with one company for many years and built new legs in each of those years are now very wealthy. Those who think the grass is greener soon learn that true, lasting wealth can only be achieved through long-term participation in one company. We've heard all the arguments of those distributors who honestly believe that to succeed in MLM, one must belong to 2 or more companies. But the proof is in the printout. We've never met one person who has successfully built more than one downline at the same time. And we've met hundreds of people over the years who swear by the 2-company system. But listen closely. It doesn't work. It takes every bit of focus and effort you've got to reach the top payout of one solid network marketing company. Have no doubt, several of your distributors will become tempted by other programs, and some will actually attempt to prove us wrong. Until that's done, we've got to keep stressing the facts. No one has successfully done it yet. Some people will participate in what we call positioning for the pop. That means that they will jump from company to company, knowing full well that each company will not remain in business long term. But they'll jump from the gold deal to the offshore deal, hoping to pick up some front-end quick money in the process. Never mind that these are pyramid schemes, and only a few people will win. Never mind that the company is likely to fold any minute. All that matters is that they pick up a little easy money along the way. Watch out for those scoundrels. They are the folks who give our industry a bad name. In the world of traditional corporate pyramids, entire companies are created to search for executives to fill their clients' needs or specialties. If you are a physician who is tired of private practice and you're looking for a partnership of specialists or some directorship at a hospital, all you need to do is find the number of an employment agency that specializes in the medical field. There are dozens of them. If IBM needs a specialist in some technical engineering position, they not only advertise but will also frequently call in employment agencies specializing in engineering. Here's our point. In a free society, people will always seek to better themselves. Corporate executives aren't particularly hurt when some head-hunting agency hires away their upper managers. It happens. It's a fact of life. Yet, if one of our leaders begins sniffing around other network marketing companies, or worse, actually goes to a presentation, my God, you'd think the sky was falling. Rumors begin flying around at fiber optic speeds. Upline associates are immediately notified, and an entire search and rescue program is launched by every money earner within 6 or 7 levels in an effort to keep that poor fool from defecting. They all think that if the company loses that leader, they're ruined, that it's liable to destroy the enthusiasm and momentum of the entire organization. Bull! The truth is, all new distributors will probably be tempted, several times in their careers, to change companies. Remember the SW rule. Some will, some won't. So what? Because someone else is always waiting. We're all adults, and we certainly don't want to retain those who are plodding along in our company, who are making no progress and draining our time, when they might be happier in a different company. We say, Godspeed and good luck. But long before they are ever exposed to a new competitive company, we make certain that they've been prepared for that eventuality, and that they realize that every time they start over, they are hurting their reputation just a little bit more and distancing themselves from wealth one more time. Unless you pick a real dud of an MLM company, it's possible to do well in any number of them. The key to success is to stop jumping ship and stick with one. Peter Hirsch has given a name to the frantic search that people take as they go from company to company looking for that $10,000 first-month fix, the cocaine mentality. In contrast, he recommends the surer, safer approach, the carrot juice mentality, which recognizes that it is only from the steady building of a healthy organization that long-term residual benefits are derived. In MLM, as in life, as we sow, so shall we reap. Diffusion by other leaders. The temptation to follow the teachings of expert journalists or to become involved in other MLM companies would seem to be a natural part of business. But what about scatter bombs that are dropped by leaders within one's own company? How dangerous are those diversions? Extremely. In fact, this problem causes distributors, especially in their first year, to become scattered and ineffective, and is the most difficult to combat. Unless leaders explain this very carefully, they could quite easily become the targets of scorn and ridicule from leaders within their own company. More often than not, the scatter bomb is perpetrated by pseudo-leaders who may have never before succeeded in building a successful downline, but by virtue of former experience believe they know what they're doing. There's a significant difference between 10 years' experience and 1 year's experience 10 times. That's why we always encourage our distributors to primarily recruit individuals with no former experience in MLM, because they are so much easier to train. Those who are basically MLM junkies, jumping from company to company, are often the very know-it-alls who can cause your new distributors so many problems. Let's take a look at the confusion potentially caused when leaders set off the scatter bomb. Let's pretend that you are in your first year of MLM and you've done an exceptional job of building your organization. You have 850 people total and are earning a reasonable $3,000 a month. Your groups are growing exponentially, and all of them are following your training format. Then your people start excitedly discussing the fact that one of the company's leaders from a completely different upline group is coming to town to train his people, and since it's an open meeting, everyone in town is invited. Obviously, you can't stem the tide of enthusiasm if you've failed to discuss this threat beforehand with your people, and you certainly don't want to seem jealous or overprotective. Of course, this is just your 6th month in the business, and none of your strongest leaders have been in the business long enough to make any real money yet. So they are extremely vulnerable at this stage of their careers to any new concept that would seem to propel them to wealth a little faster or easier. The meeting occurs, and you sit there and cringe as the speaker introduces a brand new prospecting system that has supposedly proven very effective. You notice your people are taking copious notes. This is the same system your upline associates taught you is not as effective as their own. In fact, they tried it years ago and found that it wasn't a system that was easily duplicated. Be prepared in this situation. Usually about half your leaders will go charging out and implement this exciting new system, only to fizzle in 6 months, but in the meantime it will sidetrack your leaders just enough to ruin their momentum. How in the world do you stop this kind of internal scatterbomb? A psychiatrist we greatly admire once said, 90% of the solution to any problem consists in awareness of that problem. Again, if you train your people effectively in the earliest stages, you'll have already dealt with, if not eliminated, this problem. Here's how to do it. During your training session with new distributors, you should state the following. We consider it our job as your mentor to assist you in earning millions of dollars and regaining total control of your time as quickly as possible, and we can assure you of two things. One, we will never keep information from you about systems that work. And two, we will never allow you to make the mistakes that experience has taught us can cause failure. Can you all understand our motives? We want to see that you succeed. As your mentors, we insist that you agree to one very important stipulation, because if you won't agree to this, we can't help you. Fair enough? Get their consent. You must be willing to promise us right now that you will never, under any circumstances, change to new systems because a leader in town has promoted them, or recommend books and materials to your downline until you check with us. That is, until we get you to an income of $15,000 a month. After that, you can do whatever you want. Is that a fair deal? Again, get their verbal consent at this point. We cannot afford to have you scattered and unfocused, or teaching new concepts to your downline, or doing anything else counterproductive. In fact, we suggest you check with us before you attend any big meeting in your first year. Fair enough? By calling the attention of new distributors to this inevitable booby trap, you are doing a great deal toward preempting it. More importantly, you are requesting their permission in advance to repeat this admonition each time a new leader comes to town peddling sales aids. And when you do bring it up on your voicemail to your entire downline the week before the leader hits town, they will not consider your warning as stepping out of line or expressing jealousy. If you don't breach the subject at training and teach all your people to do the same with all their frontline, every time a new leader comes into town, your people can be set back months in their efforts. You see, it's not necessarily that the new system doesn't work. The problem is that each time you introduce a new system to your entire downline, everyone starts all over again at ground zero. And we all know that it takes months of effort to become proficient at any new marketing strategy. The Parasite Mentor. The next factor that will cause new distributors to become scattered is what we call the parasite mentor, someone who has never built a legitimate organization yet has written a book or recorded an audio tape to teach others how to do so, and claims to be a mentor. Let's say that one day a new second-level distributor calls you to introduce herself, and innocently lets slip that her sponsor, your frontline associate, is engaged in some new recruiting activity with which you are completely unfamiliar. So you call your frontline associate and gently mention your conversation with his new recruit, and after a bit of small talk, you quiz him about this new direct mailing system. He becomes embarrassed, but then explains to you that he just read a great book by a well-known author, whom you know has never actually built his own organization. Regardless of the fact that mass mailings have never worked effectively for anyone in your group, he is using it and teaching it to others. Folks, we recognize and respect the fact that we are all independent distributors who have the right to do this business any way we desire. But as the head of our own organization, each of us has the right to decide whom, among our people, we wish to actively support. Make certain in training new distributors that they understand that you are going to support only those that follow your system. And those who change your system without your approval will lose your support. Why are we so adamant about this? Because we want you to succeed, and we know our system works, but we don't know about others. Another problem can stem from a successful network marketer who has a burning desire to become an author. But beware of these books. They can be quite inventive. We have seen lots of materials churned out by successful network marketers that contain systems and strategies that have never been utilized by them or anyone else. But motivated by a fiery zeal to get a book or tape released, the concepts seem logical at first glance. The problem is most new distributors who read materials written by leaders accept them as gospel. We've often pondered how many poor souls must have failed at network marketing by emulating these unproven recruiting and training techniques, presented by successful distributors who never actually used them. It's sad, but true. If you're a new distributor, we encourage you to track upline until you find a highly successful distributor and follow the exact systems he or she has used. If you enjoy absorbing knowledge about the industry, at least call a veteran in your company to get suggestions on truly useful books by authors who have successfully built huge organizations. Don't lose your vision by following systems of parasite mentors or new authors describing unproven systems. Some who have written bestsellers in our field have never built anything. Other authors have been in 20 different companies and will, in fact, join yours if you order 10,000 books. But they are often disseminating strategies that do not work or have not been tested. And if your new distributor reads and implements them, it will cause months of wasted time. Scatterbomb fever. The next diversion is often inadvertently created by your own company when new products or services are introduced. Often it's what we call a sizzle product, a new exciting technology or a specialized niche item that causes distributors to lose all decorum and sense of propriety and start jumping around like old Festus Bean on a train trip to the Yukon during the Great Gold Rush. Irrational comments and erratic behavior on the part of new distributors generally accompany the announcement of these new products. Especially when a major field leader joins in the fever, the sizzle product scatterbomb can be quite devastating. Let's take a look at one example. This type of scatterbomb fever began in one company with something as innocent as simple math when a distributor calculated that he would earn an extra $30,000 the next month if everybody in his group ordered just one of the newly released product. It progressed to the point where frenzied medical doctors rented warehouse space and taught medical assistants how to operate forklifts in order to warehouse the supply, which would result in $20 million of profits next year. What made this situation all the more frightening was that this frenzy occurred when no one had yet seen or even used the product, and no studies about the product had been released. All this activity stemmed from rumors that the new product was really great and that everyone in America would be in lines a mile long to purchase it. Company leaders dropped the hint that the supply was limited and could become back-ordered, thereby keeping the fever at a high pitch as distributors bought more than they needed to be sure they didn't run out. We saw thousands of victims of this misdirected activity, and even a year later, some distributors were still distracted from building their business. Some were threatening to sue everyone in the known world, and others were still angry over the $20 million they lost. So how in the world do we protect ourselves and our distributors against this type of scatterbomb when it's a new product from our own company? How do we maintain rationality in the face of a screaming frenzy initiated by our upline leaders? Well, to be honest, we're not certain there is any protection, given the truth about greed and human nature. When a good, solid company releases a new, exciting service or product, nothing can really keep people from becoming excited. But at least you can remain balanced. Tell your leaders to try the new products and to recommend that everyone in their groups try them, but not mortgage their homes in order to buy them. Wait until the new product has fully proven itself before getting too excited. And above all else, please don't rent that warehouse space just yet. What we've learned is that the real money is made a few months after the new products have proven themselves, not during the initial hype. If distributors jump the gun at the launch of a new foreign market or a new product, they typically last only a short time in this business. About halfway through the second month, at a time when we truly don't know yet about the long-term nature of the commodity, it may actually still be on backorder. Around the third or fourth month, if the product or service is truly what it's been portrayed to be, and the company has produced enough to supply the demand, thus enabling us to purchase all we want, then the real volume, based on usage instead of hype, begins. That's when we truly notify all our friends and family and begin developing a new addition to our recruiting speech. Perhaps the biggest danger of all is that the launch of a new product or service which has real sizzle can scatter distributors enough to shift their focus from selling financial security and time freedom to just selling the new product. That's a real hazard. You don't want your best recruiters redirecting their approach from the MLM dream to a single service or product. Remember, prospects will never be as excited as we are about a new toothpaste or CD-ROM. In the midst of their selling a new service or product, distributors should continue to focus their prospecting approach on how to earn $20,000, $30,000, even $50,000 a month, and achieve total financial independence. Tantalize your prospects, if you like, with your excitement about the new items coming or new foreign markets opening up, but keep it in perspective. Most of all, maintain a balanced outlook with every new product. Don't go overboard and build your presentation around any one product or service before it is a proven success. Frenzies never yield stable growth. Lack of structure. Many distributors suffer from lack of structure in network marketing, particularly those who were accustomed to the world of traditional business. After all, they got used to the Monday morning rah-rah meetings, production quotas, and supervisors breathing down their necks demanding more and more. In network marketing, you are your own boss, revving up your own engines and setting your own pace. The systems in traditional sales are the antithesis to those utilized in networking. Some corporate salespeople, such as Terry Hill after she left the Xerox Corporation as their #1 salesperson, feel disoriented and displaced at first without the traditional structure. Many people need a detailed plan of action and a timetable, complete with daily quotas. This keeps them from becoming scattered and creates a strong sense of direction. Once you have set specific goals, use a day planner or a scheduler or anything else that will assist you in keeping yourself on track. For others, time itself is a problem. Such people may feel overwhelmed by their already busy lives. How can they possibly fit one more thing into it, especially something as time-consuming as a network marketing business? Or perhaps having jumped in without a plan, they use their time inefficiently, running around town, hither and yon, fighting traffic, doing one-on-one meetings, presentations, and training. They feel completely at loose ends and are unsure about what really constitutes productive activity. Pam Delahanty of Francistown, New Hampshire, found the solution by turning to her upline associates for coaching. She describes how dissipated she felt trying to keep up with her life and her business. The biggest challenge I had was time. After all, I already worked full-time as a dental hygienist. On top of that, I was a mom to 2 very active toddlers. And then there was my husband, with whom I wanted to spend time. I felt stretched, torn, and at times guilty as I tried to spread myself in all directions. I felt out of balance, out of control, and out of integrity. I saw myself wearing too many hats as mother, wife, friend, employee, and now as a networker. Though I felt a strong belief for this industry and the possibilities it could provide, it was difficult for me to find the time and energy to share it with other people, given my already full and hectic schedule. I turned to my upline associates, Dr. J. Clark and Linda Young, for help, and at their suggestion I began exploring my core values. What I found to be most important to me are relationships, fun, spontaneity, and the peace of mind financial freedom brings. Once I determined this, I took a look at how I could work these into my life and my business. What if I could share the benefits of the products and the business when I was going about my daily life, without putting on a separate hat? What if it was spontaneous and even fun? Since having incorporated these elements into my business, I am more energetic because I'm not wasting time worrying about what I am going to say, or how I am going to look, or even what the response will be. I used to think energy was dependent on how much sleep I had or what I ate. I now believe I will have all the energy I need just by getting myself into worthwhile action. Action creates energy. I'll never forget one of my first outrageous impromptu conversations after discovering my new enthusiasm. A policeman stopped me on my way to my first sponsoring interview because I had rolled through a stop sign. I explained with much enthusiasm how nervous I was with this new business venture, and he let me go with just a warning, a smile, and a good luck wish. As a thank you, I gave the officer a sample of our toothpaste. A week later, I was stopped again by the same officer, this time to purchase product, and years later, he is still a loyal customer. When a longtime family friend first introduced Suni Nelson of Fresno, California, to network marketing, she was working from 60 to 80 hours a week and holding down 2 jobs. Suni immediately informed her friend that she couldn't take on network marketing because she absolutely had no extra time, period. But the more she thought about her predicament, a relentless work schedule and $40,000 of debt hanging over her head, the more she decided she had nothing to lose. She gave up television and some sleep, deciding that television would never get her where she wanted to go and that she could catch up on missed sleep later. Suni began sharing the opportunity and products with everyone she knew. She created a work plan, stayed with it, and within 2 months she earned the distinction of being the first in her company to become an executive director in such a short time, a record that lasted 5 years. After 2 more years, she reached the top level in her company and now has earned the freedom to enjoy her real love, competitive slalom water skiing. One of the primary excuses people give for not joining our industry is that they don't have the time. However, both Pam and Suni found a solution to this problem. They avoided the scatter bomb and focused on doing the work necessary to build their groups. Not so surprisingly, once they realized what the business could mean to them, they both found the time. If you are having difficulty organizing your time, harnessing your energy, or keeping your attention focused on your business, seek the help of a mentor. Ask someone, preferably in your upline, or someone else you want to emulate, to coach you. It can be done once a week in as little as a 10 or 15-minute telephone conversation. Renee has been a mentor to Karen McGeehan of West Lynn, Oregon, for some time. Each Monday, Karen reports her business activities to Renee, summarizing the number of people she prospected that week, the number of appointments she set, and the number of people to whom she made a presentation, her real measure of progress. Her goal is to do 10 presentations a week, which results in her sponsoring between 5 to 8 people a month. When she is off her target, Karen and Renee will talk about what got in the way of her meeting her goals that week, and then perhaps Renee will assist her in redesigning her mindset to block any negative thoughts. When we are out of the country, Karen faxes or emails her report to Renee. Even if they don't talk, they share some communication in writing. Over time, Renee and Karen have built a close relationship. You may find that a mentor can help structure your activities, making all the difference between success and failure. Going it alone in a team sport. It is the role of the new distributor to plant the seeds, which the various upline associates need to water. It is easy to get scattered if distributors try to go it alone in this business. But the fact is, we are all part of a team. New distributors must learn to utilize upline support until they, like their role models, achieve wealth and independence. John Prange of Kutztown, Pennsylvania, was a veterinarian in his 50s who had been successful at everything he'd ever tried, until he tried network marketing. According to John, "It took 2 years for me to realize that something was wrong, that I was not succeeding as I normally had in my other endeavors. I was able to recruit lots of benchwarmers into the business, but none who wanted to play on the team." John was really bothered by his apparent failure and turned to his network marketing team for help. It was suggested that John look into taking a personal development course to find out what might be missing in his life, something that perhaps he didn't even know was missing. One program led to another, and he made a discovery. I realized that I had never honored anyone by listening to them, but had always listened with my own agenda. I began to look at the fact that my life had been designed by me many years earlier to play out exactly as it was playing out, and I currently had no control over the play unless I was willing to make some major changes in myself. I was fascinated by the joy of writing a new script, wherein I could develop a game bigger than life with no particular ties to the outcome. But the most important part of this plan came when I began surrounding myself with a community of individuals who would support me in my decisions and commitments, and who would always be there for me. Then I learned that it was a two-way street. I had to be able to give positive directional feedback to my players to help them win the game based on their own expectations. I had always wanted to be the good guy to my friends, wearing the white hat. But now I could see the value of letting other members of my team know when they were getting off track with their businesses. As the one soliciting support, I needed to make strong, clear requests. As the one giving support, I came to understand that my associates could not read my mind. They joined me in this business believing that I would lead the way. So I began making requests of them that honored their individual visions and supported them to stay on their own chosen paths to success. What John discovered was that being part of a truly supportive team is the key to success. It comes down to a few simple steps. 1. Consider the unlimited possibilities and shape your vision around the vast choices. 2. Develop a game plan delineating specific daily steps toward building your business that will include identifying those characteristics in your life that you believe could be improved. 3. Get into action. Don't procrastinate. Just do it. 4. Make clear requests from a coach or upline mentor for your own personal growth, and give honest feedback to your downline, being mindful of their personal objectives. Then watch your business grow beyond your wildest expectations. Because of the multi-level structure of our industry, we are all part of a team, sometimes coaching and other times being coached. When it all works according to plan, the multi-level compensation program is absolutely warranted and justified. To try to go it alone in this business is to swim upstream. It is a team business in which, in the course of every day, there should be some giving and receiving along the way. If you want to avoid being scattered and keep total clarity of vision, you need to reevaluate how to better serve and be served by your team. Distractions caused by personal crises. None of us works in a vacuum. The success of our business is commensurate with our enthusiasm, and our enthusiasm is affected by our personal lives. Dr. Dennis Petzolizzi of Middletown, Connecticut, found comfort by focusing his complete concentration on his business while going through the greatest tragedy of his life. Dennis's story puts many other crises in perspective. On February 28, 1992, at approximately 10:30 p.m., I was involved in a car accident that changed my life forever. Before this tragedy, I was a successful person, or so I thought. I excelled in everything I ever did in life. I was a perfectionist who was able to do many things and do them all well. But the problem was, deep down, I was unhappy. I wasn't passionate about anything in my life. This instability led to my divorce, a drinking problem, and finally the accident that was the turning point in my life. I had been drinking that night, like I had on numerous other occasions in my life. That's how I disconnected from reality. On this particular night, I ran a red light and broadsided a car with 2 passengers. The passenger was not hurt, but the driver, Renford Gilling, was killed. From that moment on, my life activities consisted of being sued, appearing in court, going bankrupt, trying to run my medical practice with my name in the headlines, facing a possible 10 years in jail, and trying to sustain a marriage to my new wife, Bonnie, the most supportive person in the world. On the inside, I felt guilt, shame, sorrow, fear, and despair, all mixed together. I wished I had been the one who died. This was a tragedy of immeasurable proportions, and it was buried inside of me, eating me up. I was convicted of misconduct with a motor vehicle and sentenced to 4 years, suspended after 30 days with 3 years probation. I was put on random urine tests for 2 years, alcohol counseling, and AA meetings. My license was put on probation for 2 years. I went bankrupt and had to close my office. I did 3,000 hours of community service. But nothing, I felt, could make up for the life I had taken. In August of this same year, I discovered network marketing. My company president believes strongly that network marketing is an opportunity for personal growth, which will then lead to financial growth. With the help of my new networking family, I learned how to stop hiding my tragedy and instead turn it into a positive force for gift-giving. I have told my story to hundreds of people who in turn have affected thousands of others. Don't drink and drive. Instead of wallowing in the shame of it all, I now honor Renford Gilling by saving lives in his name as I tell others his story and mine. If it weren't for the philosophy put forth by our incredible industry, I know I would still be drinking and living in guilt and despair. Instead, I have a beautiful relationship with my wife, a wonderful 3-year-old son, a thriving medical practice, a network organization that is growing geometrically, and most of all, I am living my passion, which is to powerfully affect the lives of millions. Dennis was fortunate to have found a supportive wife and an understanding team in his network marketing company. He could easily have allowed his tragedy to diffuse his energy for the rest of his life. Instead of yielding to chronic alcoholism and utter despair, he has turned his attention toward concentrating on the lives he can still save. The exponential growth that is so strongly promulgated by our industry is far from being just about money. As it is exemplified in Dennis's personal life, the concept is a force for change in hundreds of thousands of lives. Dennis has overcome his reluctance to hide his story. By his openness, he has made a significant impact on others. Each time we sit down with new prospects, we must realize we have the opportunity to make a difference in their lives. But for that to happen, we must find a way to get through their resistance. When prospects see a business opportunity that seems too good to be true, one that doesn't fit their self-image, they will either pass on the opportunity or get in and then quickly get out. It is only when people can visualize the end result that they will consider joining you in this business. Network marketing is a business of storytelling. Don't be afraid to show your vulnerability. If your story has a human quality, it has a much greater chance of touching people and breaking down their barriers during your presentation. We can't avoid crises, but we can prevent them from completely diverting our attention from our work by accepting each one as a stepping stone to both personal and business excellence. Summary. The scatterbomb is a mental explosion that diffuses the focus of distributors, causing them to stop using the system they have been taught, and to frantically follow any and every new network marketing system or leader that comes along. Effective network marketing is a process of duplicating systems. Each time you change the system, everyone in your downline gets confused. New marketers can be handed everything on a silver platter and still fail if they refuse to duplicate a simple system that has already been tried and tested. Novice distributors must be taught to follow the teachings of their sponsors and not deviate from them. Distributors must be warned to put on blinders their first year because of the veritable smorgasbord of competing companies, recruiting systems, videos, manuals, and numerous other sales systems available to them. Successful networkers build their businesses on their ability to shut out every negative influence around them, whether internal or external, and stay the course with clear vision, focusing intently on their goal and plan of action. One of the first manifestations of the scatterbomb will be the temptation to change, just slightly, the recruiting system you've learned, by either softening the approach or lowering the income or recruiting numbers. The way to prevent your new distributors from attempting to reinvent the wheel is to anticipate it early and warn them during training of the importance of following a proven system. Counter the threat that first-year networkers will be offered other deals by 1. Warning them of this fact. 2. Teaching them that perseverance with one company is the key to success. 3. Explaining to them that trying to build 2 downlines in separate companies will lead to failure. Most new distributors will be tempted several times to change companies, but remember, no single person in your organization is absolutely indispensable. As you continue to build your group, new leaders will emerge under those who choose to leave. Keep your group from jumping from one system to another by preparing them ahead of time to glean new facts from a new speaker while never changing to a new recruiting or training system. The key to building a successful business is to stick with one system long enough to allow it to work. Ask a trusted upline associate for recommended reading, and don't lose your vision by following authors not recommended by your mentor. Scatterbomb fever can be caused by an announcement, often from highly respected leaders within your company, about a soon-to-be-released product or service that they say is so unbelievable that everyone will soon be clamoring for it. Be skeptical of their claims until you have used it yourself. When you or your associates occasionally fall victim to scatterbomb fever, don't change your plan of action, simply continue on your steady course, while including a mention of the exciting new addition in your presentations. Many distributors suffer from a lack of structure, particularly those who were accustomed to the structure of traditional business. If you have a problem organizing your time, use a planner or scheduler to help you stay on track. Make clear requests for your own business and personal growth from a coach or upline mentor, and, in return, give honest feedback to your downline associates, being mindful of their objectives. If you want to avoid being scattered and keep total clarity of vision, reevaluate how to better serve and be served by your team. The success of our business is commensurate with our enthusiasm, which in turn is affected by our personal lives. It is only when people can visualize the end result that they will consider joining you in this business. When you experience a personal crisis, don't be afraid to include it in your story to help break down the barriers during your presentation. You can't avoid crises, but you can prevent them from completely diverting your attention away from your intended objectives by using each one as a stepping stone to propel you to success.